Most people think that discipline is about being tough or having the crazy ability to suffer more than everybody else. But that is not discipline. Here's the thing, discipline is not in your DNA. You're not born with it. It is in your design. It's about making success easier than failure by designing your environment to do the heavy lifting for you. Discipline is not a personality trait, it's a system. Being disciplined sucks in the moment, but not being disciplined sucks later and for the rest of your life. The question that you should ask yourself right now is, what friction exists in my current environment that is making it harder to be disciplined than to be lazy? That's the first thing you wanna think about. Like, what things around me? Is it the food in my pantry? Is it the friends that I have? What do I need to extract from my environment to make discipline easier? If your day relies on feeling motivated, if your goals rely on feeling motivated, then you're already behind because motivation is unreliable. It is a source that depletes, it is finite, and it's not something you can control. So if you don't have structure and you don't have systems, then you quickly burn through your motivation and you don't ever get to achieve your goals because you don't have the real structure it requires to achieve one. It's not that we wanna stop doing the behaviors that are preventing us from reaching our goals, it's that we wanna figure out an alternative. We wanna say, what can I do instead? Instead of eating the chips, what if I ordered tea? Instead of ordering the fatty hamburger at the burger bar we're going to, what if I have a protein shake before I go? The biggest way that I've been able to hack my way into having a disciplined life is I just find alternatives. The biggest lie that people tell themselves is that discipline should feel hard. Here's the thing, if it's too hard to repeat, it's not discipline, it's your ego, it's willpower. Because if discipline doesn't feel easy, then you're thinking about it wrong. For example, when I first started going to the gym, I went to the most advanced classes thinking I was gonna get results really fast. So I remember I went to, it was called Body Pump. Body Pump was where you would do like 30 reps of one exercise 4 times. And so if you picked an even moderate weight, you were gonna be fried from them. And I remember I went to Body Pump 3 days in a row, and then I went home and I went to go upstairs to my room and I collapsed trying to walk up the stairs because my legs were so sore that I couldn't even, they just gave out. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember the moment I crawled up the stairs. And so I hated it. I remember I was talking to a friend of mine at the gym and I told her this and I was like, I'm not gonna go back to that class. It's just like too hard for me. And she said, Leila, your muscles need time to adapt. If it's constantly painful and you're constantly in pain, you're never gonna stick with it. And so what I realized is that if something feels too hard or too punishing, or it's too advanced too soon, you're going to associate it with negativity and you'll avoid it. You're essentially punishing yourself. And then when we punish ourselves, that means we also avoid the thing that could potentially lead to punishment. So if every time I work out, I hurt really bad after, I'm gonna eventually avoid working out because I know what comes after working out is feeling really bad and sore after. And so here's the thing, you're not failing at discipline. You're just approaching it from a standpoint of having too big of an ego, too high of standards too early on, or you're approaching it from a place of anxiety rather than ease or consistency. And so what do we wanna do instead? We want to lower the bar and stack easy wins. We wanna make our tasks so achievable that we feel good after we've done them. And then what happens is if we do something, we feel good after we do it. Then we wanna do it again because we like doing things that feel good. This is looking at yourself as a scientist versus being the judge of your life. You wanna be a scientist of your own behavior and the way that you act rather than being a judge who's just trying to punish yourself all day. And if you do this, you're gonna build positive momentum and then you will create consistency because we tend to do things that we like doing and we tend to try and avoid things that we don't like doing. And so question for you to ask yourself is what habits or routines that you've been putting in place that you haven't been sticking with feel punishing? And that pain is making you avoid them. Think about it. Is it something at work? Is it something with your relationship? Is it something with yourself? Is it something with food? Whatever it might be, if you constantly do something and then feel pain because of it, you are likely not going to stick with it in the long run. So what this means is that real discipline is not about stopping a bad habit, it's about creating a realistic and better alternative. So if you wanna build real discipline, this is a common misconception that you need to avoid at all costs. So I'll give you an example that's pretty morbid, but it always really resonated with me, which was my mother was an alcoholic when I grew up, and she quit drinking by smoking. Sounds crazy, right? But she went from drinking to smoking, to vaping, to chewing gum, to eventually nothing. And so she didn't go from 0 to perfect. she continued to replace her bad habits with increasingly better alternatives. I know it sounds nuts, but too often people think that discipline means stopping a behavior immediately, but that almost always fails. So you don't need to be perfect right away. You just need to take a step towards the next best alternative. It's like you take tiny little steps. You don't just make the big swing all at once. This can be done with food as well. Say you eat dessert every night. You're like, I eat a sundae every night. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go from having a sundae every night to nothing. No, let's go from having a sundae with caramel, with toppings, with hot fudge to like, let's have a sundae with no hot fudge. Then 2 days later, let's have a sundae with no brownie bites. Then 2 days later, let's have a sundae with half the ice cream. And you just continue to gradually swap out alternatives in stages. And so small steps in the right direction turn into big changes over time. It's just that most people are so impatient with themselves, they don't allow themselves to get there. And they stay stuck in this cycle of going big change and then back out. Big change again, back out. So here's the deal. If you want true freedom, you have to stop relying on how you feel each day. Freedom comes from following a plan, not your feelings. A good example of this is that every year I map out a 12-month plan for my business. And now I do this because what it means is that I take some time, maybe it's a week, it's 2 weeks, it's 5 days, and I put all of my effort into figuring out what's the plan going to look like to get me to my goal 12 months from now. Now, why do I do this? I do this because I'm trying to get all the hard thinking done ahead of time so that every day when I step into my business, I just get to execute. I don't have to keep thinking. I don't have decision fatigue. I'm not constantly in this terror of like, what should I do? What do I need to do to grow my business? I just know. And I've been able to achieve that level of freedom through structure, because without structure, I'm gonna constantly debate with myself. And I'm gonna be exhausted because I'm gonna be in this cycle of like decision, execution. And that decision fatigue is gonna prevent any kind of meaningful progress because I'm gonna be stuck in the cycle of questioning what I'm doing. But if I do all the thinking ahead of time and then I just get to execute, I don't think about it. I just say, you know what, I'm gonna play this out. I'm gonna see if I make progress. All in all, discipline isn't sexy, it is boring. And boring is what scales, boring is what works. If your routine is exciting, you're probably doing it wrong. Because by the nature of routine, if it's exciting, it means you don't do it all the time, which means it's not a routine. It's funny because people say all the time, I would love to see a day in your life, Leila. And I'm like, well, that's boring as because my life is a series of systems strung together every day. And so it means like I have a system for working out. I have a system for my marriage. I have a system for my business. I have a system for my friendships. I have a system for my family. Like I have a system for every aspect of my life. But here's the thing, those systems, those are discipline and they're real. Are they boring? For sure, they look boring from the outside, but they get the results that I'm looking for in my life. And a lot of the times, most people are just chasing novelty. They want a new workout, they want a new mastermind, a new business, a new meetup, but they don't actually get any results. They just feel like they're making progress because they get to go from 0 to 1 a million times. I'd rather go from 1 to 10. And so the reality is, if your routine is too exciting, you're probably not actually making progress. Feelings are fleeting. And I want the long-term satisfaction of knowing that I can stick with something, knowing I have control over myself, and knowing that I've mastered something. And what I've seen is that when you start doing it, it adds up, and then you start to feel better about yourself and better than you've ever felt because you're like, I trust myself. I trust myself to stick with the plan. I trust myself to have my own back. Discipline is not just going to bring you closer to your goals. It's going to bring you closer to the person that you want to be. And at the end of the day, I care more about how I feel about myself when I'm by myself than I do about the fleeting moments I had during the day where maybe I wasn't super into something, maybe I didn't want to do it for 5 seconds, but that always goes away. Building discipline is only half the battle.